The last thing they would expect is to find a suitcase with a human body in it.
The big question is, how the hell did he get there?
They were crazy in love at first, but it quickly became tumultuous. There were infidelities. They'd go back and forth. They'd fight. I think they liked the drama of it.
And the next thing coming out of his mouth is, when I get home, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to smash your face in. He said he was leaving and he wasn't coming back.
Were you ever angry enough to want to see him dead?
There were times I wanted him gone, but gone doesn't mean dead.
And Mel just said, well, I'm a single mom now, and now I've just got to get on with my life. I said, well, no, the next thing is we've got to figure out who did this to him. And after I got off the phone, I said, she did it.
They couldn't find any forensic evidence whatsoever to establish that this was a crime scene.
Do you still insist that you're innocent?
Absolutely. I still feel like, how could somebody think that I did that?
I think she did not actually commit the crime.
It turns out it isn't the end of this story.
My name is Megan Sachs. I'm a criminologist at Fairleigh Dickinson University. In simplest terms, criminology is the scientific study of what causes crime and how the criminal justice system responds to crime.
I've written about 25 true crime books over the years, and I think Melanie Maguire's is perhaps one of the most interesting ones and baffling.
This is Melanie Maguire, arrested today minutes after dropping off her children at daycare.
Melanie Maguire, a New Jersey nurse, was accused of killing her husband, cutting up his body and throwing it into the Chesapeake Bay.
In 2007, what was being called the suitcase murder trial was generating an enormous amount of media attention, not just in New Jersey, but all across the country.
3 bizarre discoveries, 3 separate suitcases, all containing human remains.
A woman who was on trial for her very life. She says the real truth behind the crime has never been revealed.
With no history of violence and no apparent motive for murder, could she really have done it?
She was this beautiful young nurse, and they were this seemingly normal middle-class couple, and the murder happened in such a grisly way.
The idea that this beautiful nurse could have actually killed her husband and then cut him up is just incredible.
Of course, there were the salacious aspects.
Mrs. Maguire is a registered nurse, and prosecutors say she had an affair with a doctor.
She didn't fit the profile, I guess, of a murderer.
Over the years, students and colleagues of ours have come to me and said, you know, Melanie Maguire proclaims her innocence and would love to tell her story.
I started thinking, oh, maybe there is a little more to this case than what you just see on the surface. And then the idea of a podcast came up, and I was all in.
On direct appeal, we examined the murder conviction of Melanie Maguire following a highly publicized trial. Looking at the evidence that was presented and the evidence that may have seemed insignificant at the time, we form our own conclusion about Melanie's guilt.
We here at ABC have our own history with the Melanie Maguire case. Back in 2007, ABC's Cynthia McFadden had the first on-camera interview with the mother of 2 on trial for murdering her husband.
Who is the Melanie Maguire you hope the jury knows?
The one who tried to take care of everybody, who didn't make the smartest decisions, but admitted to those mistakes to the people she trusted most, but did not admit what she's accused of. I have been incarcerated for 12 and a half, going on 13 years now.
Do you still insist that you're innocent?
Absolutely.
You're sitting here a wrongfully convicted person.
Correct. Absolutely.
And what have those years been like?
I tell people it's not as bad as you think in some ways, and it's so much worse than I could ever articulate in others. After all these years, I still feel hurt. I still feel bothered. I still feel like, how could somebody think that I did that?
This whole saga begins on May 5th, 2004, with an odd discovery in Virginia Beach.
Early morning, a couple of fishermen and their kids are out on a boat by the Chesapeake Bay.
Me and my friend Don Connors was going to go out fishing. And we both had days off, and D, or Don, we called him D, he said keep his kids out of school, we were going to take them fishing. So everybody was excited. We went right out through this bridge here, and if you keep on going, you'll run right into the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel.
The Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel is about 17.5 miles long. It really is quite astonishing. It connects the eastern shore of Virginia to Virginia Beach.
Has 2 tunnels for 2 shipping channels, and once you get on the other side, you go north, you're up into Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey. So we went out there and anchored off of Fisherman's Island, and we were just doing some fishing.
And suddenly, one notices that a suitcase has floated by.
We wheeled the boat around, pulled up alongside it. I immediately thought it probably blew off of a car, you know, and off the luggage rack or something. D and his son had reached over and were trying to pull it up in. It had some weight to it, so I stopped the boat, reached in and helped him pull that thing up in there. And laid it in the floor of the boat.
They found a dark green Kenneth Cole suitcase in pretty good condition that was apparently part of a luggage set of 3.
They put it on board, and the little boy with them is very, very excited. He thinks it's buried treasure, so he wants to open it.
The contents were covered with a thick trash bag, like a hefty bag or something. And I said, uh-oh. I was a little bit nervous then when I saw the black bags in there. So I turned to say something to D, and while I was talking to D, the young boy reached down and ripped open the plastic trash bags. There was no doubt of what it was. It was a set of human legs.
There's a pair of male legs from the knee down, look very fresh, and they recoil in horror.
I looked down there and said, oh my gracious. So I closed the bag back up, and I dialed 911.
I was out on patrol in the Chesapeake Bay when I received a radio call. I made arrangements with him to meet me, and he transferred a suitcase over to my boat.
I handed him the luggage, and he seemed surprised. He goes, what do you want me to do with that? And I said, open it up.
I was pretty shocked. I'd never seen a suitcase with body parts in it before. There really wasn't any smell. They actually looked kind of fresh.
The first suitcase being found was big news. It's not, a common find by any means, especially in this area.
This is an alarming story. Everybody wanted to know who the man in the suitcase was.
We kind of figured there had to be other suitcases with other parts in it.
After the initial shock of them finding the suitcase, everyone was just waiting for what was going to wash up next. Chesapeake Bay area, there's a lot of boaters, there are bird watchers, there's Fisherman's Island, a nature sanctuary. This is really kind of a tourist, a fun area.
People are going there to relax or going with their families. The last thing they would expect is to find a suitcase with a human body in it.
It was the start of the summer tourist season, which is huge for Virginia Beach, and getting that kind of negative publicity of bodies washing up in suitcases was something they did not need. 6 days later, the student was on Fisherman's Island in the middle of the Chesapeake Bay, which is a nature preserve. And she saw a dark green Kenneth Cole suitcase.
She was curious what could be contained inside, and she actually pulled a little bit of the black trash bag out of the suitcase, There was such a strong odor of decomposition that she immediately stopped and notified the refuge workers.
The police, they've been expecting this because after the first Kenneth Cole bag with the legs, they suspected there was going to be more.
It was transported to the medical examiner's office in Norfolk, and that's where we actually viewed what the contents inside.
Inside this suitcase would be the torso and the head of a male. The torso is still attached with the arms and the head.
The head was wrapped in what looked like a medical blanket.
The face was somewhat identifiable, but it had been submerged for a while, so extremely bloated.
The medical examiner is able to determine that the victim's been shot multiple times. There are a couple of gunshot wounds in the torso area and one through the head.
There were 2 bullets that were recovered from the body, wad cutter bullets. And wad cutter bullets are not typically used by the average person, but they are used for target practice.
And it became a very big local story.
A student discovered a suitcase near Fisherman Island. Inside, a human head.
It's getting a lot of coverage.
It's the second suitcase in a week found near the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, and the second one containing body parts.
And everybody was waiting for the rest of the body to turn up.
Well, the third suitcase was found on May 16, 2004 in the water by a fisherman.
He saw the suitcase floating in the water. This third suitcase that had been in the water the longest did have some growth on it from floating in the water for so long.
This suitcase contained the pelvis, so from the waist down to above the knees. Authorities realize they have to figure out who it is.
Anytime you find a known body, the first thing you're going to do is look into missing person cases to see if the profile matches anyone who's currently missing.
Because of the naval bases in the area, they're checking military records. They're checking everything they can possibly think of to figure out who this person is.
One of the policemen working on it came up with the idea of getting a sketch artist in.
I immediately took photographs to our sketch artist, and she was able to do a sketch for us, and we eventually released it to the media.
We're hoping maybe this will give us an edge and maybe identify him sooner.
Right now, he's just
John Doe.
May the 21st, Sue sees the picture on TV of a sketch that they had done to find out who this person was.
Sue had been getting out of the shower one morning. The television was on, and as she was getting out, toweling off, she looks at the TV.
This is a sketch of the body that washed ashore near the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel this month.
He belongs to somebody. I mean, he's got loved ones.
She thinks, oh my God, that looks like Bill.
Sue was pretty sure that it was Bill McGuire. This is John and Sue Rice, Bill McGuire's good friends. Bill and John had been friends since their early Navy days. Bill was friends with Sue as well. Melanie knew Sue. The couples had vacationed together.
Sue immediately calls her husband to take a look, and he's not so sure it's Bill. But Sue's convinced it is, in fact, and says, please call Crime Stoppers.
He was very good friends with Mr. McGuire. He told me that Mr. McGuire lived in Woodbridge, New Jersey. He was married to Melanie McGuire, and they had 2 small children.
He wanted to know more about the dynamics of Bill, why I thought it could be Bill. And the only way that I thought it could be Bill is that, yeah, he's missing too.
John Rice had spoke to Cindy Lagash, who is William McGuire's sister.
I got a call from Cindy. She said, John, is Billy there? And I said, no, he's not. What's going on? And she said, well, Bill and Melanie got in an argument and he left and he hadn't been heard from.
He said he was leaving and he wasn't coming back. My husband was full of bluster when it came to stuff like that. He would say things like that all the time. I didn't actually believe it was the last time I was ever going to see my husband.
William McGuire had, in fact, vanished. Mr. Rice and his wife, Mrs. Rice, eventually agreed to come down to the police department in Virginia Beach and view some photos.
Bill had a little red mark right here, and that's what I kept zoning in on when I saw the picture. That's exactly what I zoned in on. I mean, I've known Bill for 22 years. I kept seeing that, and I was pretty certain that it was Bill.
Once we had a name and approximate age, we ran him through our computer system.
He ran a check on Bill McGuire, and he found that McGuire had been arrested in Virginia for a reckless driving charge in the 1980s.
His fingerprints were on file already, which made it a lot easier, and they're very quickly able to confirm that the fingerprints matched.
The man in the suitcases was identified as 39-year-old William McGuire of Woodbridge, New Jersey.
So according to Melanie, she just thinks her husband is missing, but she is about to get the news that will change her life forever.
And I said, I'm sorry to tell you, ma'am, that William is deceased. And I just burst into tears.
Now they've solved the mystery of who the man in the suitcase is. The big question is, how the hell did he get there? The Melanie McGuire story is centered around New Jersey. They lived in the working class part of New Jersey where The Sopranos took place, which was perhaps the hottest show at the time.
Melanie is a Jersey girl, born and raised there. Her parents are Linda and Michael Caporero.
She's a great, great daughter, mother, friend, full of life, fun-loving, a good girl, never in trouble, never in trouble.
Always trying to help people.
She's working in the restaurants in Jersey. She's a waitress, and she met Bill McGuire. He was also a server.
Bill was known as the rude waiter because he would speed people up in a jocular way, but they loved it, and he would ask for the rude waiter.
What was he like?
Funny, clever. He had a big heart when he wanted to. He wanted all the right things.
He was very, very loyal. He was a tremendous friend. When I first met Bill, I didn't know what to make of him because he was really a practical joker and whatnot, and I thought, well, this guy could probably get on somebody's nerves with all this. But he was so funny, he just kind of overcame whatever resistance you might have to him.
Melanie was a fertility nurse when I met her. It's just so caring, so nurturing.
She was working with women who were going through really tough times, trying to get pregnant. She was very compassionate, and her patients really loved her.
What made you a good nurse?
Type A personality. The way I looked at it, I was not going to be happy with anything less than the total comfort level of my patients.
In 1998, Bill called John and I and told us that he wanted to bring Melanie down to meet us. Melanie, she's a really nice person to be around. Physically, she's beautiful. She's very smart.
She had a lot of the same sense of humor that Bill had. When Bill was making jokes, Melanie would be right in there.
He liked to razz people. She would razz him right back. He really was crazy about her.
What was your relationship with Bill like in the beginning?
In the beginning, it was the challenge, it was the chase. It was, we had a bit of a tempestuous relationship even before we got married. We would break up, get back together.
Bill and Melanie dated for quite a while. They were crazy in love at first, but it quickly became tumultuous. There were infidelities. They'd go back and forth. They'd fight. I think they liked the drama of it.
I think she thought she could make a difference in his life. I think she thought that she could maybe change him, make him happy. She truly did love him.
You guys want some more champagne? Yeah. All right, let me go get a bottle. Because there's nothing in there, is there?
They got married in 1999. It was probably one of the most extravagant weddings we've ever been to.
Mr. and Mrs. William McGuire. Melanie, on her wedding day, looked absolutely gorgeous, angelic, just perfect.
Both Bill and Melanie seemed like they couldn't have been happier.
She was a little naughty.
He was marrying a girl that he absolutely loved in a way that maybe he hadn't loved anybody before.
Bill, did you put your hand up? This is the last time Bill's going to have the upper hand.
Bill McGuire got a $65,000 a year job with the New Jersey Institute of Technology.
Bill and Melanie settle into a rented townhouse in Woodbridge, New Jersey.
Woodbridge is a sprawling, densely populated township on the suburban end of New Jersey's industrial flatlands. If you're going down I-95, you're taking exit 11 to get off to Woodbridge.
We were both happy, new parents, and then things changed drastically.
He had a dual personality. He could be very likable, and then on the other hand, he'd be very calculating, manipulate you.
He had always had issues with gambling, and he would go through periods where he would go down to Atlantic City a lot.
There were times that he would just take off to AC and gamble, and you wouldn't hear from him, wouldn't know what was going on.
He found he could make some money gambling. There were good times with that, and there were bad times, and there were a couple of times I put my foot down, and I said, that's it, no more. So then he would get involved in the stock market. He wanted what he wanted, and he couldn't get it fast enough, and with that came frustration, and eventually that frustration became directed at me. There was one particular argument over the phone where he had gotten stopped for a traffic ticket. He had an absolutely atrocious driving record, so I started to argue back, and the next thing coming out of his mouth is, when I get home, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to smash your face in. It's very difficult for me to think back on it because I actually drove off in the middle of the night, and I had left and I should have stayed gone.
Why did you stay?
I wasn't strong enough to leave.
Did you love him?
I did, and even though, now at this point, bear in mind, I'm having an affair.
What appealed to you about Brad Miller?
He was just very, very tender. I really tried to fight it, but I couldn't fight it.
Life for the McGuires is getting a little more complicated, and then one night, it all erupts.
Bill was probably the most streetwise person I've ever known, and I can tell you he never saw it coming.
Melanie is loving, caring, funny, considerate. We just clicked right away, to the point that I asked her to be in my wedding when I got married.
Love is always patient and kind. It is never jealous. Love is never boastful or conceited, and is not resentful. Love takes no pleasure in other people's sins, but delights in the truth.
In June 2001, the McGuires were already married for a few years. And even though there was some friction in the marriage, Melanie McGuire decided to have another child.
Little does her husband know just how ill-timed this pregnancy is. Not only is Melanie about to have their second child, she's also having an affair.
Dr. Bradley Miller was a partner in RMA Associates, and Melanie was working as one of his nurses.
He was so kind. I'd come back to my desk after a long meeting with a patient, and there'd be lunch sitting on my desk waiting for me. You know, there was always a little bit of flirtation, banter back and forth.
Melanie was about 38 weeks pregnant, and things changed between her and Dr. Miller.
I was about to go out on maternity leave, and I was sitting actually in his office at his desk. I just mentioned I have a pinched nerve in my neck, and he put his hands on my shoulders and started to rub my back. I really tried to fight it because this was not going to be good. This was not going to be good for anybody, but I couldn't fight it.
After Melanie came back from maternity leave, she and Dr. Miller started a full-blown affair, and it seemed like they were falling in love with each other, although they were both married with young children.
Shortly after my second son was born, that's when things began the final descent downhill, if you will.
Melanie and Bill moved to the Woodbridge apartment. This is a townhome. They don't own it, they're renting it.
He was constantly looking at homes. He wanted to end up buying a house before he turned 40.
He did want to move down here to Virginia Beach. We took pictures of houses in our neighborhood, but Melanie just would not hear of it.
They ended up putting a really sizable deposit down on a very nice home in New Jersey.
It was a very nice house. It had quite a bit of land. It was a $500,000 home.
It was very contradictory as she's becoming closer to Dr. Miller, but she's going along with Bill's idea of buying a house.
The marriage wasn't going well at all. So why were you buying this $500,000 house together then?
The idea for me was we had a chunk of money, cash, that we were putting down on this house. In the past, we'd come to points where we had been in similar situations, and he would, ultimately something would happen and he would go and gamble the money away. I figured this at least was an investment.
On April 28th, they're due to close on the house at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and she's in constant touch with Dr. Miller, who's pleading with her not to buy the house. He wants to be with Melanie, and he sees a future life with her.
And Melanie told him that, not to worry about it. It's going to be okay. I'll take care of it.
After they close on the house, they go back to their rented townhouse. Bill is so excited. He calls John Rice. John said that Bill had never been happier. The last person Melanie speaks to that night is Dr. Miller. She tells him, look, we've closed on the house. Bill's had some red wine. He's asleep on the couch, but when he wakes up, we're going to sort this out, and I'm going to tell him I want a divorce.
Melanie described the events that would happen later on as a big fight.
You and Bill had a horrible fight, yes?
Correct. We fell asleep on the couch, woke up early morning hours, and it was never a bad time for an argument. We're talking probably 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And it starts on the house. I settled for that house. The hell are you talking about? You settled for that house. It's a $500,000 house. That's not what I wanted.
Melanie says that Bill turned around and said, what I really wanted was a house in Virginia for cheaper, but you refused to let us do that, and so I have to settle. And she says this turns into a very heated argument.
From there, things became more physical.
How physical? In what way?
He shoved a dryer sheet in my mouth. He had a thing about dryer sheets.
The story that Melanie tells about a fight that seems to escalate over a dryer sheet is the same story she told us back when we first spoke with her.
We're still arguing, and there's the laundry basket, and there's a dryer sheet just hanging out of one of the baby's sleeves. He hated them. He thought it was lazy that I wouldn't stand there and put in the liquid fabric softener, and yeah. And it went out of control. This was the type of mother I was, that I would leave this sheet in there for my baby to possibly choke on. Before I know it, I'm up against the wall, and the dryer sheet is being shoved into my throat. And then he just smacked me.
In the face?
Yeah, open hand, because he probably would have broken my cheek if it had been a closed fist. And I looked down, and there's my 2-year-old. I grabbed the baby and went to the bathroom right behind me and shut the door. I just wanted away from him at that point. He said he was leaving and he wasn't coming back, and I could tell my children why they didn't have a father.
Did he say this to you through the bathroom door?
Yeah, through the bathroom door the entire time. I imagine he was packing things and leaving. He was up and down the stairs a lot, but every trip back and forth berating me.
What's the last thing you remember saying to him?
Stop. Stop.
Melanie said he'd driven off, and she presumed he was in Atlantic City.
He would have been back. He would have been back. I knew it.
But this isn't just a few days that Bill McGuire is gone. We're talking weeks.
What bothered me was that Melanie never reached out and said, hey, Bill's missing.
She never reported her husband missing, and it's almost 30 days.
The fact that we never heard anything from her was deeply suspicious to me.
Love is always ready to excuse, to trust, to hope, and to endure whatever comes. Love does not come to an end. This is the word of the Lord.
In the early morning hours of April 29, 2004, Melanie McGuire said that she and her husband Bill had a violent fight and that he left and she never saw him again.
Melanie says the next day she got her kids up, she took them to daycare, and she started trying to figure out how she was going to move on with her life without Bill.
And during the next day, the day after that, you didn't hear anything from him?
No.
Did you try calling him directly?
No, because this is what used to happen when we fought. You know, I'd call, whether it was to tell him off or to try to apologize or what, we just end up getting back into it again. I'm done now. I'm done.
She retains a divorce attorney, and at this point, she does tell the divorce attorney that she has not seen her husband in a few days. And according to Melanie, the attorney advised her not to file a missing persons report.
My heart broke for her. She didn't deserve, nobody deserved that. But I told her that, you know, she needed to think about herself right now. She needs to protect herself.
I called a business associate of mine who was an attorney. She said, you need to get a restraining order.
State your full name.
Melanie Lynn McGuire.
She had to go in front of a judge and give sworn statement about the incident that happened.
Tell me what happened that brought you to court today for a temporary restraining order.
My husband and I closed on our first house on Wednesday.
That should be a positive thing, shouldn't it?
Yeah, it should. He's been behaving really erratically.
Ms. McGuire, you're safe here. Don't worry.
Melanie explained to the judge how Bill had been violent with her.
Did he hit you, ma'am?
No, not until, well, I don't mean to sound like I had absolutely no part in this. I said some not nice things and slapped me.
As part of the questions, Melanie was asked by the judge if she owned any firearms.
Do you know if there's any weapons?
Not to my knowledge.
This is a sketch of the body that washed ashore near the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel this month.
We're hoping maybe this will give us an edge and maybe identify him sooner.
About a month goes by between the time that Bill disappears and when Sue Rice identifies Bill McGuire after seeing the sketch on local TV. The next thing police have to do is notify Melanie McGuire of the death of her husband.
Melanie was asked to come down to the police station.
The officer came out and he says, "Is your husband William McGuire?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "I'm sorry to tell you, ma'am, that William is deceased." And I just burst into tears.
But there's one thing she never asked. How was Bill McGuire murdered?
They did not tell her how and the condition in which he was found.
That would be one of the first questions that I would ask.
The next step was that the Virginia police wanted to speak with Melanie. Melanie agrees, but she brings her divorce attorney with her and another criminal attorney in that practice.
Conducting an interview with the victim's wife with two attorneys present is highly unusual. First time I have ever had that happen to me. She was nervous, she was visibly shaking, she made expressions like she was crying, but she never had a tear in her eye. I asked her if she had any luggage, and she informed us that they didn't have any matching luggage.
The next day, Melanie told detectives she suddenly remembered that the McGuires did own a matching set of designer luggage.
I showed her a picture of one of the pieces of luggage that we recovered in the bay, and she identified that as belonging to them.
They asked what kind of person Bill was, and she said he was the kind of person that had a knack for pissing people off.
She asked us, where did we find her husband's vehicle at? I told her at that point, we hadn't found her husband's vehicle. And she said that probably a good place to look would be Atlantic City, New Jersey. She also informed us that her husband had a gambling problem.
Did he get involved with the wrong people? That's what I would have to believe, that he had gotten himself into something. And Bill always thought he could handle everything.
He was always into some kind of deal, so I think maybe this deal was his last deal.
After the interview was done that evening, we also conducted a search at their old apartment building. The apartment was empty. She had already moved out.
They asked him about Bill's possessions and his clothes.
We discovered that Miss McGuire had already given all of her husband's belongings away.
Virginia Beach detectives find out that Melanie McGuire had given most of Bill's belongings away to a friend's cousin, and they wanted to track that man down. Eventually they did and found out that most of Bill's clothing was still in black trash bags, much like the bags that contained Bill McGuire's body parts.
The garbage bag by sight looked identical.
Things are starting to make sense with the detectives. There's the black trash bags, and there was also the hospital blanket that the head was wrapped into. And they're thinking, well, Melanie McGuire is a nurse. That's kind of an odd coincidence.
At Melanie's suggestion, detectives start to search Atlantic City for Bill's car. And lo and behold, that's exactly where they find it.
The Atlantic City forensic unit processed Mr. McGuire's vehicle. They took photos, they fingerprinted, they vacuum cleaned the floorboards.
The body was released to Melanie on a Tuesday. Immediately she had him cremated. And the funeral lasted all of 10-15 minutes at the most. She called the following evening after the funeral, and at that point I just kind of blasted her. I just told her, I said, Melanie, Bill deserves so much more. And Mel just said, well, I'm a single mom now, and now I've just got to get on with my life. I said, well, no, the next thing is we've got to figure out who did this to him. And after I got off the phone, I remember hanging it up, and I said, John, she did it. She did it.
Everything pointed to Melanie McGuire.
Through wiretapping her phones, the police discovered the relationship that she was having with Dr. Miller.
It's a eureka moment because it provides motive.
I've told them everything that I know, but they're, they just don't.
They want you to break.
What's the last thing you remember saying to him?
Stop. Stop.
People like to believe that someone was capable of committing this type of murder.
Accused of cutting up his body and throwing it into the Chesapeake Bay.
That the person who did that would look like a monster. But sometimes killers look just like Melanie McGuire.
Is there anything else you're not dealt with? Like what? Like I killed my husband? Did you? No. It makes risk.
A scorched earth investigation was conducted, and the lack of evidence is resounding.
The evidence in this case points to a well-organized, meticulously planned execution of a murder.
Computer searches that said how to murder someone, how to poison someone, basically multiple searches about how you kill someone.
I don't get to be an evil genius and an idiot at the same time.
I believe that Melanie was wrongfully convicted.
Who do you think killed your husband?
Melanie McGuire, once a married mother to 2 little boys and a fertility nurse, is today a 47-year-old inmate at the Edna Mann Correctional Facility in Clinton, New Jersey.
In here, guilt and innocence is irrelevant in day-to-day life. I have 6 numbers and a letter after my name, the same as the woman on one side of me and the same as the woman on the other side of me.
After Virginia Beach exhausted their investigation, they realized all signs pointed north to New Jersey.
My name is Patty Prezioso. I was the lead investigator in the Melanie McGuire investigation and prosecution.
Patty Prezioso was a very driven and highly successful Assistant Attorney General in New Jersey.
You let the evidence guide you, and you follow it until it's clear what happened.
She was extremely competent, and it was obvious.
The task force had local police, state police, the Attorney General's office. They decided to treat this case with top priority.
It was clear that he had been shot, and trying to find out if any of the people close to Bill owned a gun was a top priority.
The detectives don't find any record of Melanie buying a gun in New Jersey, so they decide to check Pennsylvania.
They knew that Pennsylvania was close, and a lot of people will go to Pennsylvania for firearms because the gun laws are more lax. There's less of a waiting period, and so you can go in and essentially walk out the same day with a firearm.
It turned out that when the record check was done with Pennsylvania, a record came back that Melanie McGuire had purchased a gun.
I remember plain as day when she came in, because not many women come into the shop. She filled the forms out, and then when she wrote down her occupation, that she was a nurse, that stuck in my mind, because I guess that was the first time I ever sold a gun, you know, to a nurse.
Melanie bought a Taurus 38 Special, and she bought wad cutter bullets.
And that gun was purchased just 2 days before Melanie McGuire said her husband went missing.
And remember, early on, Virginia detectives talked to Melanie, and she never mentioned anything to them about buying a gun.
I had informed my attorneys of the purchase of the gun, and they said, well, you know, if they ask, don't lie, but don't offer any information. And they never asked about a gun.
Melanie bought the gun because Bill wanted her to buy the gun. She could get it, he wanted it. What he wanted, he got.
Because Bill McGuire had a felony conviction stemming from his horrendous driving record, he was barred from purchasing firearms.
You say your husband asked you to purchase the gun, but you purchased a gun just 2 days before your husband went missing.
Of course, it's a coincidence. However, he was on me for a while about that, about trying to get that. And if something was happening, if he was in some sort of trouble, that may very well have been the reason why he was so intent on getting it.
Once the police really honed in on Melanie, they began wiretapping her phones.
Hello. Hi.
The surveillance was so intense that over a 40-day period, they recorded 500 hours of her phone calls.
Every time you get your head back above water. Yep. And that hand reaches out from beyond the grave.
A lot of those calls were very cryptic.
Hey.
How you doing? I spoke to, what's his name, about shipping?
Alex.
I didn't want to say name. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
She used the phrase a lot, being cut off at the knees.
At least meet with a lawyer ahead of time who might cut it off at the knees.
Doesn't that look suspicious?
It doesn't matter what it looks like.
She was a little salty. That was her personality, though. She was a Jersey girl.
A lot of them were to her boyfriend, Dr. Bradley Miller.
It was very clear right from the beginning that the relationship with Dr. Miller was different. There was a change in her voice. It was a softer tone.
It's a eureka moment when they realize that she's having an affair because it provides motive. Dr. Miller also becomes a suspect. So one night when Dr. Miller was leaving work, he was going to his car. The detectives came out to confront him.
Dr. Miller was adamant that he had nothing to do with any crime and he didn't know anything about this. And so I think the police said, well, prove it. You know, if you're willing to wear a wire, we'll believe you.
It is now 2:30 p.m., May 31st, 2005. Brad Miller making an outgoing call to Melanie McGuire.
Hello?
What's up? I've told them everything that I know. But they're, they just don't.
They want you to break.
I mean, if you want us to stick together, I gotta know everything now. before this goes any further.
What do you mean? You have to know everything now.
I mean, there's no other secrets between us, right?
That I can think of.
You swear you had nothing to do with us?
Yes.
And your children's lives. Because I'm standing by you.
Yes.
In those intercepted phone calls, another friend he was speaking to was Jim Finn.
Melanie met Jim Finn in nursing school, and Jim admittedly had a crush on Melanie.
But once she left nursing school, she never talked to him again. You know, that was it until February 2004, and she suddenly got in touch with him again.
When she needed something, he was someone that, you know, she could manipulate. And she knew he was a lover of guns.
The police also approach Jim Finn because they find that before Bill disappeared, she's been talking to him about the firearms.
She said to him, hey, I need to talk to you. There's some weird stuff going on here, and Bill is acting weird.
Jim, who really still holds the torch for Melanie, and Melanie knows that, says, well, maybe you should get a gun to defend yourself.
Investigators pick up Jim Finn, who also allows them to record his conversations with Melanie. And once they hear what's on those calls, they're satisfied Finn knew nothing about the murder.
The reason I kissed you about buying a gun is because my husband wanted one. He wanted one? Yeah. Not only did he want one, I bought one for him. Why didn't you tell me?
At the time the detective spoke to Jim Finn, he had no idea that Melanie McGuire had purchased a gun. He was surprised.
Is there anything else you're not telling me? Like what? Like I killed my husband.
Did you?
No. But thanks for asking.
Melanie never wavers on whether or not she was involved. It is always a hard no.
I want you to tell me the truth. I'm telling you the truth. I did not do it.
She was under a microscope. Everything she did was being watched. Everything she said was being listened to.
Melanie does something that most people would find a little suspicious.
Investigators start looking at her E-ZPass records. They notice trips to Atlantic City.
She knew that Bill McGuire's car was in Atlantic City because she put it there. That requires 2 drivers. So that means someone helped her.
What investigators find in Atlantic City has them wondering, did Melanie have an accomplice? And if so, who was it? The next set of clues in the mystery of who killed Bill McGuire leads investigators to a 170-mile stretch of toll road, the Garden State Parkway. With Melanie now the prime suspect, detectives start pulling her records. They try to track her movements in the days around her husband's disappearance. And one of those is her E-ZPass statement.
So when investigators start looking at her E-ZPass records, they notice that there were charges for 2 trips to Atlantic City.
On April 30th, 2004, just 2 days after the fight Melanie said that she and Bill had, Melanie does something that is very odd and most people would find a little suspicious.
I'm starting to become more actively angry at him. And I'm thinking, that son of a bitch, I know where he is.
According to Melanie, she decides that he's probably in Atlantic City gambling, so she's going to drive down there and she's going to look for his car.
Absolutely not rational, but get in the car and go down there. And I'm driving down, and I take the first pass on this highway, and I see a dark sedan. There's no way. There's no way. And lo and behold, there it is.
Once Melanie spots Bill's car from the highway, she decides she's going to move his car. Melanie says in the past, when they're angry at each other, it's a way of messing with each other, I guess you could say.
Pull off onto a little side street, and I parked my car, and it was like Mission Impossible. Scooted up to the car, got in, started it, and drove away.
And where'd you put it?
What I believe to be the Flamingo Hotel.
What Melanie said was, I was going to move his car to the seediest part of town, the most annoying for him to find.
that just didn't make any sense. That he was physically abusive to her, but then she goes to mess with a car with a guy that she claims she doesn't want to be around.
It sounds beyond ridiculous sitting here saying it, and I acknowledge that, and I can't, you know, it's the truth.
It's an incredible story, meaning it's just not credible.
We believe she was planting his car in Atlantic City. She was trying to create an illusion that Bill McGuire was still alive. That requires two drivers. So certainly that means someone helped her. Someone had her Pathfinder, and she was driving Bill McGuire's car. They put the car at the Flamingo Hotel, and then she went home with the person driving her car.
And investigators thought they'd struck pay dirt when they discovered that hotel's parking lot had surveillance cameras.
In truth, of course, the footage did not capture who the driver was.
The surveillance video from the Flamingo Hotel actually showed the victim's vehicle being pulled into a parking space. Because of the darkness and the glare and the background lights, you could not actually see the person that was occupying the vehicle.
There was another inexplicable road trip, this time to Delaware, 5 days after her husband went missing.
She had shared with Dr. Miller that in the early morning hours of May 4th, she was actually furniture shopping.
Investigators think that this Delaware furniture trip is really just a ruse.
That same road would have taken her to the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel.
Normally, someone would take the New Jersey Turnpike to go over the Delaware Memorial Bridge, picking up Route 13, which runs south to the Chesapeake Bay Bridge and Tunnel.
Patty Precioso says that Melanie actually left the night before from New Jersey, drove Bill's remains to Virginia.
We believe that that was when she took the suitcases with Bill's remains and got rid of them in the Chesapeake Bay. And the first suitcase turned up the very next day.
But of course, Melanie thinks this theory is preposterous.
Virginia Beach is another 450 miles from Delaware. So, I mean, you're talking about hours, and there just isn't enough time.
And why was she driving all the way down to Chesapeake with the body parts in the car, thinking, I'm not going to get stopped, I'm not going to break down? What a chance that is. You know, I mean, you can't stop on a bridge and open a window and throw 3 suitcases out.
Maybe if it was one of these pieces of circumstantial evidence for which you might have a reasonable explanation for 1 or 2, but we're talking a large amount. You can't have reasonable explanations for all of them.
It's a mountain, and it's a lot of coincidences, and that's absolutely.
But coincidences don't always make for the best evidence. And detectives were still searching for any physical evidence that would link Melanie McGuire to her husband Bill's murder.
Where is the proof? Where is the forensic evidence?
The task force is convinced that Bill was murdered and dismembered at their townhouse in Woodbridge, so they concentrate on that.
They went back 4 to 5 times to search for any evidence.
They did everything that you would typically think of, right? They brought in the luminol, pulled down parts of the walls, they pulled out the piping, pulling floorboards up. They really turned this place upside down a number of times.
They were trying to find bullets, traces of blood, and nothing ever came up.
Couldn't find any forensic evidence whatsoever to establish that this was a crime scene.
I don't know how you would dismember a body and effectively clean that up.
Despite that glaring lack of physical evidence, investigators still believe the circumstantial evidence is enough, and they arrest Melanie McGuire.
So surreal. Day like any other, getting the kids off to daycare.
We surveilled her to the school, waited for her to drop her children off.
Walking out of the building, I'm not even off the curb. Melanie McGuire, can you come with us, please? I knew.
2 years and 10 months after the first suitcase washed up, the trial against Melanie McGuire commences in Middlesex County, and it was a sensation.
The evidence will show that while Bill was engrossed in purchasing the house, the defendant was very busy planning his death.
There was no proof that Melanie McGuire murdered her husband.
Prosecutor said either Melanie McGuire is guilty or she's the unluckiest woman in the world.
On Monday, March 5th, 2007, 2 years and 10 months after the first suitcase had washed up in the Chesapeake Bay, Melanie McGuire went on trial for her husband's first-degree murder.
This was a case that had garnered a lot of media attention in New Jersey. It had all the elements that it was going to be a salacious trial.
The judge let us know that the trial was going to be televised.
Let's bring a couple of experts into the conversation to help us sort through yesterday's evidence.
It made people act differently.
I think Melanie loved the idea that she was the center of attention.
She seemed very relaxed, much more relaxed than I would have been.
It was a double-edged sword, because if she sat there, you know, more stoic, she looked nasty or she looked mean. And then when she was being more upbeat and talking to people, oh, well, you know, she's joking around at her own trial. There was nothing she could do that wasn't going to be criticized.
By the time Melanie McGuire gets to trial, she's hired Stephen Turano and Joe Tacopina to represent her. Joe Tacopina was a high-profile celebrity attorney.
Joe Tacopina.
Joe Tacopina.
Joining me now, Joe Tacopina. He's the attorney for Alex Rodriguez.
He feels just as comfortable in front of a TV camera as in front of a jury.
A scorched earth investigation was conducted, and the lack of evidence is resounding.
The evidence in this case points to a well-organized, meticulously planned execution of a murder.
Is that a fair description of you? Were you somebody, if you were going to do something, you were going to do it all the way?
Correct. And I would counter that argument with, if that's the case, then I would have been sure to not include blankets that could be traced to me, my own luggage. I don't get to be an evil genius and an idiot at the same time.
They're not going to be able to tell you where William McGuire was killed, how he was killed, when he was killed.
The defense were really trying to play to the jury that Bill was a major gambler and he may have owed thousands and thousands of dollars.
He was a big gambler because he gambled beyond his means. When you have money out on the street and you're behind and you're not making payments, you know what happens? You get shot here and you get shot here.
As prosecutors start laying out what they believe Melanie McGuire did to Bill, it all starts with something they found in his car after it was processed in Atlantic City.
When investigators first recovered Bill's car, they found a bottle of chloral hydrate, a red liquid, and also a syringe in it.
State's Exhibit 983. Do you recognize that?
Yes, that's the vial we dispensed the liquid in.
Chloral hydrate is, have you ever heard the term slip somebody a Mickey? It's the Mickey. It's what it is, it's almost like a knockout drug.
They do a lot of investigating on this chloral hydrate, and eventually they find out that it was purchased the morning that Bill disappeared.
Somebody dropped off this prescription for chloral hydrate at the Walgreens pharmacy, which is just down the road from where Melanie's children went to preschool.
But the prescription pad was that of Dr. Brad Miller, who was Melanie's boss. So the light bulb goes off and they're thinking right away, clearly Melanie had access to this prescription pad. She used it, she filled it.
Chloral hydrate was necessary for this defendant to have control, and even more importantly, it was necessary to her that Bill McGuire had no control. Dr. Miller looked at the prescription and he said, "That's not my signature, and it appears to be Melanie McGuire's handwriting."
Prosecutors also focused on what they said Melanie was doing in the days before her husband's disappearance. For that, they looked at the McGuire's home computer.
We had it forensically examined, and it really was just astounding seeing what the internet searches were for. Can you describe the searches that you recovered?
How to purchase guns illegally, how to commit murder, and undetectable poisons was searched.
It didn't look good. It looked like someone was searching how to, sedate someone or how to kill them.
I'm a nurse. I was a nurse. And I don't need to look up things like that. If I wanted to look for something like that, I have a PDR, Physician's Desk Reference. I have a book that I can look in that doesn't leave an internet history.
But both Melanie and Bill use this computer. So it's really hard to figure out who was searching these things.
Now, you have absolutely no idea of knowing who actually conducted the searches that you talked about, correct?
No, I don't.
One of the things we can say for certain is that your husband didn't commit suicide. He didn't shoot himself. He wasn't able to carve his own body up. And yet there's a suggestion from the defense that some of the online searches were things that he was in fact doing, not that you were doing.
It wasn't me.
Although investigators found no physical evidence in the McGuire's home, they did find something significant in Bill McGuire's car.
After Bill's car was recovered in Atlantic City, our criminalist was able to locate several pieces of small flesh. These pieces of flesh are an artifact of Bill McGuire's body being disarticulated. The phrase was used, human sawdust.
Human sawdust is a term that did not exist until this case, as I understand it.
I found particles that, to me, look like it could be possibly human tissue.
DNA results indicated that the flesh belonged to Bill McGuire.
What this really was a few pieces of microscopic skin cells that were a little bit deeper than the skin we passively shed.
Could those tissues, the tissue that you looked at, be shed from a live human being?
It cannot be shed from a live human being. It's not a typical shedding process at all.
Their theory was that this nurse, who was kind of so meticulous, had somehow just forgotten to wipe the bottom of her shoes, that she accidentally tracked these human sawdust particles of Bill's body from the house to the car.
Thank you, Your Honor. There were 81 witnesses in 7 weeks. Good morning, Dr. Miller.
Good morning.
Dr. Miller was the testimony that everyone was most anticipating. He was going to be the big star of the trial.
I was having an affair, and my whole life turned upside down.
Were you in love with the defendant?
Do you want to call your next witness, please?
Yes, Your Honor. The state calls Dr. Bradley Miller.
The most anticipated day of this trial is when the man whom Melanie McGuire had a 3-year affair with, Dr. Bradley Miller, took the stand.
Everybody knew that that was the prosecution's star witness, and the court was filled.
And when you saw him, what was your feeling?
How could you? How could you?
Dr. Miller was in a very difficult spot. He and his family had gone through a very difficult time, and it was just made clear to him, just take a deep breath and make sure you tell the absolute truth. Can you describe to the jury what was your relationship with her?
We worked together. She was an excellent nurse. She took very good care of the patients. They all loved her.
Sir, did there come a time when your relationship with Miss McGuire got more intimate?
Yes, it did. It was towards the end of her second pregnancy. She was about 38 weeks pregnant. And before she went on maternity leave, we had oral sex in the office.
So not proud of that.
It has to be pretty hard to hear it come out in court.
Hard for me to hear it, hard for me to think, oh my God, my parents are hearing this, my 84-year-old grandmother is hearing this.
Were you in love with the defendant?
Yes, I was.
Had the two of you discussed future plans together?
Yes, we were hoping to be together in the future.
If we do make it through this, I'll just have to take whatever money I can get and get away.
With Dr. Miller on the stand, prosecutors were able to score some points because there were certain things that Melanie never told Dr. Miller.
Did the defendant ever tell you that she purchased a gun?
No, ma'am. I had no knowledge of her purchasing a gun, no.
Did the defendant ever tell you that she went to Atlantic City and parked her husband Bill's car at the Flamingo Hotel?
No, she did not.
Did there come a time when the defendant shared with you that she had done that?
Yes, and I asked her, well, why didn't you tell me this sooner? And she told me that she didn't want me to be upset, that she's going back to find Bill, to bring him back, and rekindle the relationship.
We looked very closely at Dr. Miller. There was no evidence connecting him with this crime.
This is in reference to consensual recordings between Brad Miller and Melanie McGuire.
You agreed to consensually record a conversation with the defendant.
Yes, I did.
Prosecutors really wanted the jury to hear those intercepted calls so they could get a sense that maybe her desire to be with him was the motive for the murder.
During the calls, Dr. Miller spoke about their future together, probably prompted by detectives.
After a divorce, and she gets half the money, I mean, it'd still be something to live on.
The understanding between us had always been that the children came first. And he starts talking about divorce and a future and moving forward, and I even say on the tape, why are you talking like this all of a sudden?
I'm confused because you've been the one to stress to me that we have to wait and see how everything plays out.
The defense was also able to score some points with those recordings, which called into question Dr. Miller's character.
At the time of those secret recordings, he was still having an intimate relationship with her.
After you tape recorded her, sir, you then had additional intimate relations with her, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you tell her that, by the way, that you had tape recorded her?
No, I did not.
I think that was damaging to his character and was a very big turnoff to the jury.
Have you ever had contact again with Dr. Brad Miller?
No. No. After the day he testified, I haven't laid eyes on him since.
You have no desire?
It's tough. That was a tough betrayal to swallow.
What matters is whether the state, and the burden is on me and I welcome it, whether the state has proved each and every element beyond a reasonable doubt. When you combine the computer searches, the prescription for chloral hydrate on prescription pads that the defendant used, and then you have the victim found inside their matching luggage, the bullets consistent with the gun that she purchased.
It was a mountain of evidence. There's no question in my mind that she did it. I also don't believe that she acted alone.
Now, who helped her?
Paddy Precioso told the jury that there was a very, very good chance that Melanie had an accomplice.
Although he was never charged, investigators took a hard look at Melanie's stepfather, Michael Caporero.
The prosecutor needed somebody, so they focused in on me. Anything they wanted, we gave them. We gave them DNA, we gave them hair samples. I had nothing to do with anything involving that crime.
You don't need the precise when. You don't need the precise where.
You don't have to find that she pulled the trigger. You don't have to find that she had hands-on physically in regards to his death. Well, boy, that leaves a lot of speculation out there for the jury. You can't guess someone into prison for the rest of their life.
The jury goes into deliberation, and Melanie and her family are waiting on pins and needles.
I was very concerned. I think we all as people like to believe that if someone was capable of committing this type of murder, that the person who did that would look like a monster. But sometimes killers look just like Melanie McGuire.
The day the verdict was read, the atmosphere in the courtroom was just electric.
Has the jury reached a verdict in this case?
Yes, Your Honor.
How do you find as to the count of the indictment charging Melanie McGuire with the murder of William McGuire?
Guilty.
I just remember seeing her collapse.
I remember grabbing Joe's arm, and I remember feeling my legs just kind of go out from under me.
She's alternating between I didn't do it, and my babies, and referring to her 2 children.
The court finds that the maximum sentence should be imposed.
Melanie is sentenced to life in prison plus 5 years.
We're going to fight on. This is a definite setback. This is round 1. This is not the end of the story.
This is episode 14, Direct Appeal.
I see a mountain of reasonable doubt.
And thanks to these 2 professors turned podcasters, it turns out it isn't the end of this story.
How could anyone be convicted with that amount of reasonable doubt? It's stunning.
After sentencing, Melanie McGuire was taken to the Edna Mann Correctional Facility in Clinton, New Jersey. Her new home would be a 6 by 9 foot cell.
Just beginning for us now. We'll never give up. We will never, ever give up for her until the truth comes out.
On Direct Appeal, we examine the murder conviction of Melanie McGuire.
This is a prepaid call from
Melanie McGuire,
an inmate at Edna Mann Correctional Facility.
All right. Obviously, Melanie's been convicted. She's exhausted all of her appeals at this point. So how did the idea for this podcast come about?
Melanie McGuire was looking to speak with someone about her story because she had done really poorly in the court system, and I think she was frustrated. And after visiting with her the first time, I was like, this is a story. This is important.
I expected the worst, and what I got was just one step shy. They give the verdict, parole eligible at the tender age of 101.
It was very difficult. It was reliving it. This was the first time somebody was basically saying, we hear you.
What'd you say? Let's get to the juicy part.
I want to know, do you think she is innocent or guilty?
In the end, I believe that Melanie McGuire was wrongfully convicted.
So you believe an innocent woman is behind bars right now?
Absolutely. I believe this is a case of a wrongful conviction.
So let's talk about some of the questions you raise in your podcast, and let's begin with the gun.
The gun to this day has never been recovered.
One of the key witnesses for the prosecution was a forensic ballistic expert.
So these are 2 discharge bullets. They're referred to as a .38 caliber lead wad cutter bullet.
Is it possible that the gun Melanie bought is not actually the murder weapon?
I think it's probable.
No one plugged the serial number of my gun into a website to find out what the specifications were. Apparently each gun makes something called lands and grooves.
Lands and grooves are rifling characteristics that are machine pressed into the barrel of a gun. And when the bullet passes through the barrel, the same number of lands and grooves are going to be imprinted essentially onto that bullet.
There were 5 lands and grooves that my weapon was said to have made based on the company's website. The bullets that came out of my husband had 6 lands and grooves.
It was a mistake on a gun manufacturer's website. We were not gathering evidence from a gun manufacturer's website. The evidence that was at trial was from ballistic experts.
But the website was updated.
It was.
After this trial to incorporate the possibility that it could have 5 or 6.
Yeah.
I thought that was questionable. I think it's very questionable that for years historically it says one thing and then it's updated right after.
Let's talk about the garbage bags.
The prosecution had an expert that said that the garbage bag in which Bill's body was found in was consistent with the garbage bags that came from Melanie's apartment.
You can see these lines here. There's a straight line here, this sort of smooth line. There's also 2 other lines close together in basically the exact same position. This indicates that these two bags were made at the same facility, on the same line, within a very close proximity of time.
He ran tests, but he didn't do all the tests that you actually need to definitively say whether these bags matched. Even his own data shows that they probably weren't the same bags.
Well, there are always other tests that can be done in any analysis. Based on the testing we had conducted and the results that I observed, I felt competent at that time to conclude that the bags were produced during the same run.
They put on a really good show. And I think when you have props, two garbage bags, oh wow, those do look alike. And so what the jurors are listening to sounds like fact, when in reality, it's just someone's expert opinion.
There is something else that's significant that you think the jury should have heard more about that was found inside those suitcases.
If you look through the lab reports, page upon page upon page, white hair, brown hair, black hair, animal hair. I think that's indicative that there was animal hair where the dismemberment took place of Bill's body.
You mentioned that you found some animal hairs. Did you find anything that you considered of evidential value?
No.
And they looked high and low to connect Melanie to some pet. And once they found that there was no way to connect Melanie to these pet hairs, it became not of evidentiary value.
Why is that? Simply because they don't match your suspects?
Those hairs should have been tested because that's a huge question mark.
Melanie did not incapacitate, shoot, use a saw to dismember her husband. You know how hard it is to cut through bone? It is physically exhausting. And also, if the crime scene didn't happen there and she's home with her children all night, where is this happening? There are just too many holes in this story.
In this case, with the mountain of evidence against her and a very complex plan, I submit to you it's amazing we know as much as we do.
This was a murder trial. It wasn't a contest to see who could outsmart the investigators, and if someone is smart enough to successfully hide a crime scene, that they win.
Did you find any evidence that exonerates Melanie, that proves her innocence?
I wish we did. I had hoped we would. I still think that we might get a tip in that direction.
What do you say to the people at home who watch this and say, how dare she talk from prison and bring this all back up again? Enough pain has already befallen her husband's family, her own sons.
There's a murderer walking around. Even if we discount what's happened to me, the killer is out there. And it's not me.
She had about as good a counsel as money could buy. She certainly had a fair and impartial jury. The fact of the matter is sometimes the evidence is such that your attorneys, no matter what you can pay them, they simply cannot overcome what you've done. So she can say whatever she wants. She's a liar and she's a killer.
Today your boys are young men?
They are.
Is there anything you'd want to say to them? There will always be questions about this case that we may never have the answers to, like if Melanie McGuire did kill her husband, why did she drive more than 300 miles to get rid of his remains in the Chesapeake Bay? His friend John Rice has a theory.
Bill did want to move down here onto Virginia Beach. After a time, he gave up on that idea. So it almost seemed like a vindictive thing on her part to drive him down. Oh, you want to go to Virginia Beach? Here you go.
Why was it important for you to tell this story on your podcast?
A lot of people who are convicted, they'll go through the appeals process, but they won't prevail. If we can investigate this, provide any type of assistance, we're possibly remedying some of the harshest parts of our system.
There are times when podcasts and media can shine a light where what the government did was not right. This is not one of those cases. A 39-year-old man lost his life before he got to see his children grow up.
You have 2 little kids.
Yep. That's the hardest part. Knowing that when I see my children, when I hug them goodbye, it could be the last time.
Ultimately, the courts would award custody to Bill's sister, Cindy Lagash. Melanie has had no contact with them.
Today your boys are young men?
They are.
Is there anything you'd want to say to them?
Make up your own mind. Don't accept what you're just being told on the surface. Dig.
What is your level of hope that one day you might walk out of here?
I'm terrified to hope, because to have it thwarted in here, it's absolutely soul-crushing.
Bill McGuire was the father of 2 small children. He was a brother, he was a friend, and his life got cut short.
I think Bill deserves to be remembered as a fantastic friend, a dad who loved his boys. He didn't deserve this. Nobody deserves that. No one.
Your father says, I have a plan to rob a bank. Shouldn't your first reaction be, are you crazy?
I asked my dad, are you the devil here to tempt me? He said, yeah, probably.
I remember thinking, is this normal? Does everybody do this?
The 3 of them, a family affair.
He had recruited his own children to be his accomplices.
And they're yelling and screaming and scaring the daylights out of everybody in the bank. Give us all your money.
In just moments, they're out.
I mean, duh. How long does 3 people think that they can just rob banks for? You know, it doesn't last forever.
You got your kids involved in this, and you're asking them to do time for you.
Who would want their own child ever arrested, much less doing hard time behind bars?
They'll be fine.
This guy possesses an addict's brain and a sociopath's soul.
You may think that Scott Capp manipulated and used his own children to rob banks, but it doesn't end there.
On October 1st, 2012, in Katy, Texas, a suburb of Houston, it was a pleasant afternoon, 1:50 p.m.
It's a little bit quiet on this particular Monday. Not a lot going on at all.
You know that lazy feeling you get after you have lunch and everything gets kind of quiet and subdued? That was exactly the atmosphere in First Community Credit Union.
There were 7 people inside the bank.
All employees?
Yes, sir.
And a silver Ford Focus drove down a street called Cinco Ranch Boulevard toward First Community Credit Union, and the car stopped near the bank, and out come 2 men.
What we're seeing here is the 2 suspects have arrived on the scene.
And they have on orange vests like construction workers or street crossing guards often wear.
The first thing that stood out to me were the bright orange construction vests they had on. And I thought to myself for a split second, what are they here to fix?
One man has a painter's mask on his face. Another man is wearing a fake mustache. They're wearing blue latex gloves.
One of them is brandishing a gun.
This is a bank robbery. Give me all your money.
Hands up, this is a robbery.
The older suspect, he takes control of the room. He's got the weapon. Immediately, the younger suspect hops the teller counter.
When he jumps the counter, that's a takeover robbery.
One of the men rushes toward a teller and says, give me everything you've got. I've got bills to pay.
What goes through a banker's mind when a robbery happens?
Fear. Just to do what they say. Give them what they need. They have guns.
One of the tellers actually is able to slip a pack of bait money into the bag.
This is money with the serial numbers recorded, so the cops are able to trace it.
It was pretty brave on her part.
One of them jumped the counter. One of them rounded up everybody in the office.
You can see that he goes directly for the bank manager. Because she's in charge. She's the one that's going to have access to the safe. She becomes instantly aware that there's a robbery taking place. She activates her silent alarm.
Several of the tellers were actually still on their lunch break back in the break room.
Were you having lunch? What were you doing on the break?
I was sitting in there. I was heating up some food. I was talking on the phone. One of my other coworkers was in there. She had just come in to have her lunch.
They didn't even realize anything was happening until they see a blinking alarm going off.
And I just kind of stopped and I looked up and I told the person on the phone, I was like, I've got to go.
They get everybody together in the safe room and they order them to open the safe.
The only thing that tripped them up, they were so flustered they couldn't get the combos right to open the safe fast enough.
Do you remember the thoughts that went into your mind as soon as you realized that this is real, this is happening?
To be honest with you, I wanted to go out because I didn't know what was happening. My heart was racing. I felt a pit in my stomach. I felt scared for my coworkers.
They ask somebody where the back door is. Head straight to the back door, out the back of the building. Little did they know that they passed right by the break room where these other two employees are monitoring the situation.
Like a bolt of lightning, ran right past the break room, out this back door. As soon as they busted through that door, the alarm sounded. So this door right here is the back door of the bank, and this is where they busted out the door. That moment it hit me. They just robbed us. It took everything I had to remember, oh my God, look out the window and look for them. So these blinds, I did like this real quick. They literally walked down the sidewalk fast as they could until they got to the curb, and then they stopped and they just kind of casually walked to the car.
Bank employees just inside here saw them heading down the alley, and one of them said she saw them get into a silver car. Which was the car parked over here.
And this is the first time we get the description of a silver vehicle.
And they're gone.
What seemed like 30 minutes was, I believe they were in and out in less than 3 minutes. Because they knew exactly what they were doing, they had done this before.
And a successful bank robbery is completed.
When you heard that this bank had been robbed, were you at all surprised?
I was, because we'd had a previous bank robbery here about 6 months prior, and I was thinking, well, that guy's in jail, who's robbing it now?
That detective and other Texas lawmen I interviewed for this story had one question. Who were these guys brazen enough to knock off a bank in the middle of the afternoon during bank hours? And investigators immediately try to find eyewitnesses, noticing that there's a chiropractor who works right next door.
He had noticed two men wearing contractor reflector vests as if they were simply taking a break.
They were sitting right there next to my back door.
Like against the wall?
Yeah, they were actually,
Yeah.
They were actually right here. And that's unusual for anybody to be sitting here in the middle of the day. So I said, hey, how you guys doing? And they said, fine. And I told the little guy, I said, nice mustache. And he kind of giggled a little bit.
Could you tell that the mustache was fake?
Oh, it was fake, yeah.
Oh, you could tell.
And then the FBI actually came back, and they're the ones who told me that those were the guys who robbed the bank.
A closer look at the older bank robber reveals that he's got a walkie-talkie.
Because of the walkie-talkie, we believe that there is someone on the outside of the bank giving them a hand.
So they had those trash bags. How much money did they actually get put in there?
A little over $29,000. It's a pretty good haul. I've had bank robberies where they've had $3,000 or $4,000 total.
Can you imagine what these employees went through?
Oh my goodness. I mean, you start walking into a bank with a weapon and you start pointing that at people and ordering them to cough up the money. I mean, that can change your life forever.
The sheriff's detectives are about to make a series of really jaw-dropping discoveries about these robbers. For one thing, this isn't the only bank they've robbed.
There was a robbery with similar MO at the Comerica Bank.
And another thing, those robbers, one older, one a little bit younger, the way they work so well together, almost like they were family.
That was noticed by all of the employees there, that there was something special about that relationship. They could have been father and son.
The quest to identify the people who robbed the bank in Katy, Texas, the robbers with the family resemblance, sparks curiosity even among the most seasoned detectives.
Our only thought was, we got to find out what this story is.
It'll eventually lead from the Lone Star State all the way to the Pacific Northwest and back in time to when a man named Scott Catt met Beth Worrell.
Scott and Beth grew up 40 miles south of Portland in a picturesque town called McMinnville. Beth was a champion swimmer. Scott played on the football team.
She came home and told us that she'd met this wonderful, blonde, handsome cowboy.
Beth was, very, very loving. Good mommy, terrific mother.
She kept him sane. She knew how to bring him back from some of his crazy times.
They lived in a nice house with 4 bedrooms. They had 2 beautiful children. Life was good.
And then she got sick.
She went for a regular mammogram, and she called me and said they want to do some more tests.
I remember going from crying to laughing to crying to talking about going wig shopping to it's all going to be okay. You have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I think we were really positive that it was going to be just a bump in the road, and that wasn't the case.
She didn't live long after that. It just went rampant through her.
Do you have any memories from your mother?
Just one, when she was sick. I just remember her being carried down on a stretcher, bright orange. It was the brightest orange I've ever seen in my life. That's it, just that one memory. That's all I remember.
Doesn't sound like so much fun.
No, but I still have that image of her in my head. I can still see her. Even if she was on a stretcher, I could still see her face, which is cool.
In the years after Beth died, Scott goes to pieces. He begins drinking, he's doing drugs, he falls into a depression.
He does let alcohol get a hold of him. He turns to cocaine. He begins to slide and lose his footing.
But somehow, despite his life falling apart, he manages to hide it all from the kids.
To his credit, Scott picks up where Beth left off. He's playing the role of mother and father and doing a very fine job of it.
My dad was right there for everything. It was always just us 3.
He cooked for them. He cooked lavish meals for them. He was the president of their swim club.
We go before school, we go after school, swim meets on the weekends. It consumed our life, but we loved it. We were part of a team. It was our swim family, and my brother was always there, and he was my favorite person in the world, and he still is.
We were very close. My sister is the only consistent thing I've had my whole life, and I'm the only consistent thing that she's had too. I can just look at her and know what's on her mind, what she's worried about.
Despite the fact that outwardly it seems like a solid Catt family foundation, the fact is there were cracks.
His persona outside the house was Dad of the Year, Volunteer of the Year. He said all the right things. He did all the right things. He took his kids to church. And then once he was home and he was alone, I think the real Scott came out.
There wasn't really a disciplinarian. There was no one there hounding us to do homework or keep up our grades.
Did you guys start drinking in the house?
Yeah. Yeah.
How old were you when that started?
High school.
And then he told me he got his dream job in Texas.
A Texas recruiter calls him and says there's an engineering job with a Houston area oil company.
So many bad memories here, he wanted to get away from it. It would be a fresh start for everybody.
And no matter how good Scott's jobs are, it always feels like the family is just a little bit short of money. And so Scott goes to his son Hayden with this insanely outlandish idea. Hey, we're gonna rob banks together.
He says, I made a decision that this is what I want to do. I want to rob banks for a living.
When he approached me and said, would you be willing to do something to get some money more illegal than selling drugs? And I said, yes.
Your father says, I have a plan to rob a bank. Shouldn't your first reaction be, are you crazy?
Looking back on it, I can't believe that wasn't my first reaction.
Why did you go along with it so easily?
I had a real struggle, and a real internal struggle. I knew it was wrong, but I was really motivated by the money.
Now, it's bad enough that Scott asks his own son, Hayden, to commit this felony with him, but then he ups the ante.
He used Hayden to convince Abby to going along with the plan to rob banks.
How did you react?
Well, the way that he presented it to me was like, we need you in order to be successful. And then it was just like, okay, you know.
Like, why did they need you?
Well, so that they didn't have to drive.
Did you have any hesitation about this?
Really, there was no question. I was going to do it. There was no questions. I had no questions. They told me they needed me, so I did it.
And the way Scott explained it to me was that he didn't see this as a chance to teach his kids about crime. It was a chance to teach his kids about self-esteem.
And this is how the Cat family decides to start robbing banks together. Hayden and Scott, they're going to be the stick-up men inside the bank. Abby is going to be the getaway driver. Simple plan. What could possibly go wrong, right?
The morning of the first bank, I asked my dad, you know, are you the devil here to tempt me? And his answer is what really scared me.
In Katy, Texas, just outside Houston, Scott Cat has recruited his two kids, Abby and Hayden, to join him in the family business, robbing banks.
A father who was a structural engineer, 50 years old, his 20-year-old son, and his 18-year-old daughter, both of whom look like classic American kids, and somehow he had recruited his own children to be his accomplices. No one had ever thought of that before.
This is the only one I've heard of. Well, it's the only one I've worked.
When Scott first came to Texas, he called Hayden and said, I love Texas. There's a bank on every corner. These are big banks. They're beautiful banks. There are banks after banks after bank.
Scott will later tell a reporter that this is his way of motivating his kids.
Needed to do something where they would get a reward and feel good about themselves. And so somehow, Scott thought, if I teach them how to rob banks with me, they'll feel this sense of accomplishment they can't get in high school.
And for their first family outing, they choose the Comerica Bank.
Picture this. A Thursday morning in August 2012, a strip mall. It's got it all. It's got the donut shop. It's got the Radio Shack. It's got the wedding dress shop. And it has a bank, a Comerica Bank, wedged in with all of the other businesses.
Now, the getaway driver is Abby, and she's just recently gotten her license, barely knew how to drive stick. Now, this is something they definitely don't teach you in driver's ed. How long did it take you to drive from your house to the bank?
Oh, a minute. 2 blocks away.
You robbed a bank 2 blocks away from your own house.
Mm-hmm.
Does your dad do like a mental checklist for everybody? Like remind everybody what their jobs are going to be?
You know, like, okay, well, drop us off here, and then, you know, we're going to walk here, and then, you know, pull around back, and you pick us up here.
The doors fly open. In comes 2 armed bank robbers. They both have pistols. They're both wearing white painter's overalls. They've got white latex gloves. And they're yelling and screaming and scaring the daylights out of everybody in the bank. Give us all your money.
He walked in first and said, nobody move or put your hands up, or I really don't even know. He was kind of like the muscle with the gun, and I was the money guy. making sure I got all the money.
They demand money from the tellers and from the safe.
Robbing somebody at gunpoint was not something I would think I would be capable of. But when I opened the door to that greed, it wasn't an issue anymore. And in fact, I was probably willing to do more than that.
Were people scared?
Absolutely. That's been one of the hardest things to deal with, is the look of fear on some of those people's faces. I was actually shaking so bad that the employees grabbed the bag and started throwing money in for me.
The employees at the Comerica Bank also noticed that at least one of them was wearing a walkie-talkie. These employees actually heard communication coming across on that walkie-talkie.
The tellers hear a female voice coming out of Scott's walkie-talkie, counting down the time. 30 seconds, 1 minute, minute 30, 2 minutes. Because at the 3-minute mark, they had to go. That was Scott's rule.
That was probably like the most nerve-wracking part of it, was just like, just come out, you know, just get out of there. Because my dad kept, well, hold on. And it's like, hold on for what? What do you mean, hold on?
Now, they're ready to hightail it out of there. But guess what? The back door is locked. They can't get out.
And this was a very tense moment. They went to run out the back door and ran right into it because it was locked.
And they have to get a teller to unlock it for them.
High drama was not as carefully planned as we thought.
Did you just drive right back home, the 2 blocks home?
Yeah, I did. It was a stick shift, and I could barely like do the stick. You know, when you take off, you got to make sure you take off without killing it. And I was like,
They walked away with $70,000, which is a huge haul in the bank robbery business. Most bank robbers are lucky to get away with $2,000 or $3,000.
I assume you'd never seen so much money in one place in your life.
No, it was quite overwhelming.
The cash in your hand totally changed my mindset, my thinking. All it did was feed the greed. All I wanted was some more now.
So you were willing to rob again?
I was, yeah.
Now you think that most people, after a major score like this, would lay low for a while, get off the radar, not make any extravagant purchases. That's not the Cat family.
They used that money to purchase vehicles with it, and then there was some partying going on.
What kind of vehicles?
So, I believe they have a motorcycle, and they have a Tahoe, and they have a Ford Focus, things like that.
I went and I got my nails done. I remember that. And I just drove around and did that was kind of my thing. And I definitely looked at my dad differently after that, though, that's for sure. I remember thinking, like, is this normal? Like, does everybody do this?
Shopping, cars, partying, really nothing to show for it.
Was there anything left over?
I don't believe so. They didn't manage their money well, because 2 months later, you need to rob another bank. How long could you last with $70,000?
The problem for them wasn't so much the pre-planning; it was the post-planning that was the problem for them.
And are you thinking to yourself, what is happening here?
It was kind of like a dream. It was kind of unreal.
And soon they realized the money was gone.
Within just 2 months, the Cat family is already running out of money, and they begin plotting their next heist. But this time, their luck runs out even faster than their cash.
They were trying to take shots of alcohol, and they couldn't even get the alcohol down because they were so nervous. And I'm like, this is not, we need to just not. My dad very, very much, no, we have to. We have to. We have no money. We have to.
After the Comerica Bank robbery, the robbers walked off with $70,000. And in no time at all, it was all gone.
So imagine you're a father who has just pulled off a bank heist using your 2 children. You might say to yourself, wow, what did I just do there? You'd think maybe that's what Scott would have thought. Oh, but no.
He had no inclination to keep his kids out of it. He thought they were a great team.
So they start looking around, and what do they see? They lock in on the First Community Credit Union.
Why this particular bank? Well, there are a number of reasons, but one of them is the bushes right in front of the bank that block the view from the street. So after you robbed the first bank, your job was to go scope out the second bank. What was that like?
I was very nervous to do that because I felt like everybody knew what I did. Everybody could feel why I was in there, could feel my vibe, and that was super scary and nerve-wracking.
When any of us walk in a bank to cash a check, whatever, we're caught on camera.
Surveillance cameras actually capture Abby on her stealth reconnaissance mission of this bank.
Let me tell you, she is not opening an account. It's Abby Cat doing a little recon before the robbery.
We wanted to know some of the details going into it, I guess, about how we were going to enter and how we were going to exit.
And when she gets back, she, her brother, and her father sit down and essentially draw up maps to use as a guide for once they get inside the bank.
Now, the next step in the planning is to change their disguises. They swap out those white painter overalls that they used in that first robbery for something else.
Some reflective orange vests, some mustaches, glasses, hats. They were doing some construction in the area, and that was our disguise, I guess, to maybe walk around and mill about a bank without drawing too much suspicion.
So it seems a safe bet would be to purchase those contractors' reflective vests. So Abby and Hayden go to the Home Depot.
And you chose Home Depot because?
Proximity to our house.
And you didn't think that someone could trace that?
I didn't think there would be anyone following up behind us.
And like Scott did on the first robbery, he had Hayden, the night before the second robbery, go out, steal some license plates from a car in a adjoining parking lot, tape them to the license plates in the car they were going to use to hide the real license plates, but to be able to rip them off as soon as they could when the robbery was over.
Now it's the day of the robbery, October 1st, 2012, and as they prepare to leave the house, Abby says her gang is not exactly brimming with confidence.
They were trying to take shots of alcohol, and they couldn't even get the alcohol down because they were so nervous, and I'm like, this is not, we need to just not. My dad very, very much, no, we have to, we have no money, we have to.
Were you scared?
Yes, I was scared. It's just something you just like want to be over with.
You remember feeling nervous?
You know, I remember feeling nervous and anxious, a lot of adrenaline.
Did you announce that it was a robbery?
We did. We would shout something or yell something initially. It's definitely not like the movies, or at least that ours wasn't like that.
Were people scared?
Absolutely. I remember a few people's face still. Total shock.
Terror?
Yeah, they were scared, terrified.
Hayden jumped behind the counter and then asked for the money to come out of the different tills. Scott was able to get the employees huddled into the bank vault, and they removed some money out of the bank vault as well.
In just moments, they've come in, they've gotten the money, they're out.
They head out of the credit union, and of course, Abby is ready and waiting.
My dad's just like, go, go, you know.
And he was saying, don't go too fast, right?
Oh, yeah.
He did not want you to speed.
Yeah. By the time we got on the highway, he was fine. He relaxed a little bit, and we drove home.
You guys went home. You had a pile of cash in the house.
Yeah.
Sure, you could keep doing this, right? You didn't get caught.
Yeah.
In their minds, they made a clean getaway. Little did they know how many things they did wrong.
They thought they had pulled off another perfect crime until they got home and realized that one of the license plates that had been taped on had fallen off somewhere.
It was found in the alley, laying next to a dumpster right where Abby had been parked.
The license plate had Scott's fingerprints on it.
Why didn't you just screw the new plates on?
That was for being able to remove them quickly.
So smart, but not smart enough.
Sure.
Then the second mistake they made was in the planning.
They had no idea that bank employees were still having their lunch in the break room. And as they were watching the closed circuit TV, they were actually writing down a description of the bank robbers.
But the biggest clue of all is something that a very astute police detective spots as he's going over that surveillance tape. I mean, it's so small that you wonder that anybody noticed it at all.
He's looking at those reflective contractor jackets, and he notices, well, they look like somebody just took them right out of the package, because They have nice creases in them.
What did that mean? That they were just purchased.
And we were able to isolate those vests at Home Depot.
The purchase of those vests were made with Scott's debit MasterCard, and it wasn't a stretch to get him identified after that.
Then they looked at the Home Depot security video of the purchase made, and they saw that it wasn't a Scott Cat. It was a young man and a young woman.
But they don't know who those two people are on the surveillance tape. Now we use the modern day tools that cops like to use, and one of them is social media. Cops look for Scott Cat on Facebook.
And on Facebook, they saw Scott Cat's photo with his two children, Hayden and Abby, who looked exactly like the two purchasing the orange vests. Suddenly, Detective Martin had the entire Cat family sort of at bay.
Did you think that that would be the thing of everything that gave you guys up?
Not even a little bit.
They go back and look at more video and they find Scott Cat buying painter's mask. So at that point, they've got it all.
A man and his two children are now in custody tonight, accused of robbing.
It wasn't until they took the Katzes into custody that the police really realized how horrible a father Scott really was.
Abby called and she was yelling at me. I'm in jail and I need $10,000 to get me out of here. Get me out of here right now. And I said, you have to get that money from your father. She says, he's the reason I'm in jail.
Morning of November 9th, just after sunrise, members of the Sheriff's Department show up at the Katz apartment to arrest Scott, Hayden, and Abby. They have no idea that Scott and Hayden were planning to do a robbery that very day, and they were just waiting for Abby to show up in the getaway car.
Shortly after that, Scott comes walking out of the apartment, and detectives were able to take him into custody.
It's been about a month since the first community bank heist.
They say you're being arrested for bank robbery. And Scott looks at the cops and says, which one?
We then went inside the apartment, arrested Hayden without incident.
And all of a sudden, our door gets kicked in, and you're surrounded by police officers, guns, weapons. My world came crashing down at that point.
What a wild story this is.
A 50-year-old Scott Katz behind bars awaiting trial.
What is it like to see your son associated with that?
Horrible. How can I wrap my brain around this?
It was so unbelievable, and all I could think of was I was glad their mother was gone so that she didn't have to see this.
The police get a search warrant and they go to their residence, and they were absolutely shocked based on what they found.
We found some bank straps. A bank strap is a little paper strap that wraps around a certain quantity of money.
Apparently, they just would pull cash out of those bank straps, and when the cash was gone, they didn't throw the bank straps away.
They find no cash. $100,000? There's nothing, no cash.
Incredibly, they also found a crumpled sheet of paper, which was the script that Scott had written out for Hayden to say when he came into the bank robberies.
It says, this is a bank robbery. All we want is the money. 20s, 50s, 100s. No alarms, die packs, or GPS. Or you, family, and co-workers will be hurt.
But now, as they're bringing Scott and Hayden in for questioning, they want them to be able to help them answer the biggest mystery of all. Why would Scott enlist his own kids to rob banks with him?
You're going to figure out, I'm going to be forthright, okay? I'm going to be forthright.
We began talking with Scott in such a way where we were just having a conversation with him.
Was there some things that you did without the kids, and then that led up, and then the kids got involved.
I'll give you the whole thing. I swear. I'll give you the whole thing.
How much did he tell the officers? He spilled the beans. He waived his right to counsel, and he just told investigators exactly what happened.
I always thought that a bank was federally insured. I thought that if there is a bank robbery, we're told to just give the money and get the guy out of there. So in my mind, I thought, that's kind of, easy pickings. I guess in my mind, I thought that it was,
no victims.
Yeah.
It seems Scott didn't recognize the legal magnitude of bank robbery. This was all kind of casual. Aggravated robbery in the state of Texas is a big deal.
God, help me understand, how did you broach this topic with the kids?
Well, I think you have to go way back to the very beginning when their mother passed away. You gotta understand it was just the three of us. It kind of segregated us, I kind of made it so that he really couldn't get close to us.
He had manipulated them to think he was the only person that could take care of them, and they would do anything for him.
Going through that kind of very segregated kind of grieving puts them more at risk to future manipulations from that individual who now controls them psychologically, physically, financially.
Tell me how that first time went down. You sat them around the dinner table and said, let's go rob the bank, or?
I guess it wasn't around the dinner table, but it was, it was a little Friday night gathering, just sitting around watching movies or something. I really don't remember the details of all that. I mean, how it happened, but.
Scott's own words were that he was completely responsible for manipulating his children.
It was all my manipulation of the two of them and her. I mean, I did this whole spiel about, how easy it was going to be and how we didn't have to worry about it.
These poor kids need him so badly that they choose wrong instead of right, not so much because they're evildoers, but because they loved their father. And he took advantage of that unconditional love. He doesn't know anything about unconditional love. He loves Scott Catt.
Scott was the first one that we interviewed. And then we interviewed Hayden.
Okay, Hayden, before we start.
When Hayden's initially approached by law enforcement, he said he didn't want to talk to them.
And have you talked to your father?
Yeah.
Okay. And then did your father give you any advice?
Just to cooperate.
But after having a conversation with his father, Scott, he then decided to tell them the truth. It's a great example of how much control Scott has over Hayden.
Is anybody forcing you to do this?
No.
You doing this on your own?
Yes.
Because you want to cooperate. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
How did it feel to confess?
To be honest with you, I was still full of some pride. I was still full of some arrogance.
Oh, so you felt good about it because you were bragging?
Yeah.
Not surprising he feels that way. Remember, Scott told him bank robbing would boost his self-esteem.
So he approaches you about this, and then tell me, how did it progress from there?
Well, I was scared. I was really scared at first.
It's so heartbreaking when you think about it. The point here is that Hayden does what Daddy says.
He definitely, as far as what to look for in a bank, he, told me, what to look for and stuff. Fear was our biggest tool, I think.
Okay. So y'all would have to use fear? It would help y'all?
Yeah. That's all I needed. But one of them, there was a girl that was, she thought she was going to die. And, we felt bad about that. No, honey, we're just here for the money.
You can see this in that grainy surveillance video, the absolute horror and terror that's all over their faces. You can only imagine what kind of fear they must have felt.
You may think that Scott Catt manipulated and used his own children to rob banks, but it doesn't end there.
Scott confessed. Hayden confessed. And then Abby was brought into the interrogation room.
You know, he's always been there for me. He's been the only person that I have, so it was just like, okay, almost, you know.
If you thought a parent manipulating their children into robbing banks was bad, well, wait till you see what happens now that they've been caught.
You hear of bank robberies every day.
The Geezer Bandit. Barbie Bandits.
And they're a dime a dozen. But it is very rare that you hear of a father reeling in his own children to rob banks with him.
A man and his 2 children accused of robbing banks.
It made for great headlines. The family affair, all in the family. The family that robs together stays together.
Oh, son, if I didn't know better, I'd say that was you.
The family stole thousands of dollars. Abby Cat drove the getaway vehicle.
People were fascinated with Breaking Bad.
What the hell is wrong with you? We're a family.
I think they kind of see some of the same thing with this particular story.
How did such an ordinary-looking, normal family turn into bank robbers, waving pistols and driving getaway cars?
And you're asking them to do time for you. It says it right here. Where did you get this?
I talked myself into robbing banks. I'll just rob banks. I'm probably better at that anyway.
Investigators were very pleased, obviously, when Scott started talking about the robberies in Texas. But they were totally taken back when he started talking about robberies in another state.
Now, detectives have those bank straps they found on the floor of Scott's apartment. And some of them come from Oregon. So now detectives are suspicious that, well, maybe Scott robbed banks there too.
Okay, I'm just trying to think about the first one.
We had a big chalkboard in there, and he was writing on this chalkboard.
First Federal Savings and Loan.
Bank robbery 1 in Oregon.
Number 2 was another one. It was in McMinnville.
Bank robbery 2.
3 was in Portland.
Wow. Why would he volunteer that?
I don't know. Maybe he had a guilty heart.
I think that's all about that it's going to help him. In his mind, he's going to come clean and he's going to end up with less of a sentence.
And in that one, same thing, some sort of cover with a painter's mask, a hat, and sunglasses.
The painter's mask thing is pretty consistent.
It was with me because of my goatee.
Not only is he confessing to the crimes that they're aware of, but he's now confessing to others that they didn't even know about.
Starting off, believe it or not, in the same bank where Scott Katz's dad retired.
The newspaper printed a classic grainy photo of the robber standing in front of the teller. And Scott's mother saw it in the newspaper.
And I said, oh, son, if I didn't know better, I'd say that was you. And he grabbed the paper from me, and he looked at that. I remember so vividly, and he said, yeah, it does, kind of. And that was it. No more conversation.
And you had no idea that he was doing this in Oregon and then that he was doing this in Texas?
I swear to God.
I got lucky on that one.
If I'm surprised about anything, it's the fact that he was able to, remain undetected. You would think that someone in his hometown would have known him.
His first 5 were in Oregon.
How many of those did either Hayden or Abby know about?
None.
And now Abby's about to learn everything also. Scott Cat leaves the interrogation room, and the next person in is Abby. She's also under arrest, and the first thing she sees in that interrogation room is this whiteboard with the list of all the banks that her father robbed in Oregon.
You looking at the board?
Yeah. I saw on the whiteboard that he had wrote out some things, but I'm sure it was more than that.
It struck her, the enormity of what her father had done and what he had persuaded her to be a part of.
You know, he's always been there for me. He's been the only person that I have, so it was just like, okay, almost, you know.
And even then, she says to the investigators, he's my dad, and I love him.
I mean, how's your dad? Is he I didn't know him until today. I mean, he's a pretty good guy other than what he got mixed up in here.
Yes, yeah.
Good father.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, a pretty normal and happy childhood.
Normal, everyday kind of family, I guess.
Despite the horrendous things that a parent can do to a child, in so many circumstances, that child will still find a reason to believe in that parent and to make an excuse for that parent no matter what.
I've trusted it my whole life, and I continued on to do so. In the position that I was put in, it was more like, well, I have to do it to protect my family.
That if you didn't help them, then they would do it themselves and get arrested.
Exactly.
If there is a victim in a group of bad guys, she would be a victim.
He didn't approach her initially. He used Hayden to convince Abby to going along with the plan to rob banks.
What exactly did they ask you to do to help?
Just drive.
Okay. Well, when you say drive, I mean
like getaway drive.
The getaway car?
Yeah.
Did they ask you to do anything else?
No, never, and never, not once.
She's being made to believe, it's nothing, you're just driving the car, kiddo.
He just said it. I mean, we need a getaway driver to drive. And
because we're gonna rob a bank.
Yeah.
But what anyone knows who follows crime and justice is that you can just be the passenger in a getaway car and still be equally responsible to anyone who's inside that bank.
Did it seem like Abby was comfortable in her role as getaway driver?
Absolutely not. I know that it was only the influence of me and my father that pushed Abby to that.
I don't think anybody in their right mind would really understand how you get your children involved. I mean, getting your 2 children involved in robbing banks with firearms.
But it made you feel better when they told you the guns were fake.
Yeah. I mean, of course it did. Just knowing that no one would get hurt.
Until they told you they weren't real, you thought they were real, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever think that your dad would get hurt, or Hayden would get hurt, or they might hurt someone during this?
Honestly, no. No, I don't think they would hurt anyone, and I don't think anyone would hurt them, but that's not true.
But it shouldn't come as a big surprise for you that you're going to have some legal consequences.
No, it's not. No, I know. I understand that.
Now, both of these kids are facing big trouble and big prison sentences. At the same time, Scott is starting to scheme. He's trying to get them to do more time so that he can do less time. Why don't you read something for me? This is your letter to Abby, by the way.
Where did you get this?
Now, they're only indicted for their second robbery in Texas, that heist at the First Community Credit Union.
How many sins must I confess?
And they're facing 5 to 99 years in prison.
Texas, like most states, has an accomplice liability law. If you intended to be part of the robbery, you can be charged with the exact same crime as the person who was at the center of it.
Now, these are kids from a middle-class family, and now they're in this Texas jail. Hayden and Abby's lives are already completely changed.
I never thought about jail or any of the repercussions from walking into the bank. This has been life-shattering for me.
And I feel like now I've lost my mom, and now I've lost my dad, because most parents don't do that, so.
No, parents are supposed to keep you away from trouble.
Yeah, that's hard to deal with, to grasp onto.
It's 2013, and I sit down with Scott Catt for a series of interviews for 2020 while he's awaiting trial. Scott,
little more to your right, just a little bit.
Everybody good?
We're rolling.
What I'm struggling with is how your kids got involved, how they are sitting in jail right now. Is that a mistake? Is that an error in judgment? Or is that just, what is that?
It's all of the above, you know. It's probably an error in judgment on all of us, and especially my part.
You're sacrificing your children for your own needs. So are we looking at some sort of a narcissistic personality, antisocial personality, borderline personality, maybe a combination of all of those things?
When I went to interview them, Scott said I would only rob banks for my family.
He wants you to believe that everything he does is in the interest of the entire family unit. That is really a bunch of baloney. This was in his blood. This guy possesses an addict's brain and a sociopath's soul.
What would your mother have said about all of this?
It probably never would have happened if my mother was here.
What would Beth say, your first wife? What would she say about you dragging your kids into, as you said, your cesspool?
I can't even imagine. Can't even imagine. I'm really ashamed.
You would expect that a father who's convinced his kids to join in a bank robbery would, after they get caught, say, look, I'll take the heat. And that's how he starts.
If you were offered a deal where you had to spend 25, 30, 40 years in prison in exchange for both of your kids going free, would you take it?
For them going free? Absolutely.
What about life in prison?
Sure.
But as time goes on, he starts talking to them about what they can do to help him.
And even though all three of them are locked up in the Fort Bend County Jail, they're all in separate cell blocks, and the only way they can communicate is by handwritten letters. At this point, Abby's lawyer gives us letters that Scott sent his kids. Now, apparently, he was trying to encourage his kids to do hard time so that he can do less of it. A month later,
Hey, Scott, how are you?
I speak to Scott again. This time, I'm allowed to be face-to-face.
Let's go. All right, roll in. Why don't you read something for me?
This is your letter to Abby, by the way.
Where did you get this?
We wrote this to Abby. As long as you, Abby, are ready to do some time, I think it will better my chances, I hope. Here you are asking her essentially to do time for you.
I was trying to manipulate. I'm trying to get something
Who are you manipulating?
I'm trying to get everybody something that they can live with.
You told me that you would be willing to spend life in prison in order that your kids do not spend time in prison. You got your kids involved in this, and you're asking them to do time for you. It says it right here. I do believe that you doing prison time will be good for me, and I know that wasn't an easy choice for you.
And that's what she said to me in the previous letter, that she was willing to do that.
Wouldn't most parents say, I will take the entire blame here?
I would love to, but they have so much evidence on everybody that what are we supposed to do?
Again, it seems like Scott is manipulating his kids and us. He encourages Abby to talk more about his addiction and his dual life. Why does he do that? To gain sympathy. You tell your daughter. So if and when you do your interview, exaggerate about me, tell them I led a dual life involving drugs, alcohol, and women, and we can with them a little. Haha.
It was a joke. I was joking around.
Everything that he was doing and telling them was all for the sake of himself, for his own image.
He has done research on what would make them have a better story to sell. So being a drug addict, being an alcoholic, your audience would look at that and excuse it and maybe feel sorry for him.
You clearly told your kids to manipulate us, just like you were manipulating them.
I wanted to get some sort of movement on my case. I was going to do anything to get that.
I'm just so angry about what this dad did to his children. Angry as I am at Scott Catt, there was a moment I broke down in tears. And that is when, against all the rules, the sheriff allowed Hayden and Abby to see each other.
A serial bank robber who disturbingly recruited his own son and daughter to help him during a string of holdups has learned his fate.
Scott would have almost certainly been convicted at trial. He was facing up to 99 years.
He would have been convicted on all counts and got a maximum sentence. He did a very smart thing, taking a plea deal.
How do you plead to the offense? Are you pleading guilty freely and voluntarily? Yes, sir. I hereby find you guilty of the offense of aggravated robbery, which is a first-degree felony.
Ronald Scott Catt took a deal to avoid trial and the potential of life in prison. He was sentenced to 24 years behind bars.
After the sentencing, a reporter asked Scott about the impact that his actions have had on his kids, and he seems to get genuinely emotional.
They're pretty strong. And they'll be fine. It won't be easy for them, but they've worked hard. They know how to do
it. Hayden Catt took his own plea deal and was sentenced to 10 years behind bars.
Well, what do you expect prison life to be like? Hell. As close to hell on earth as you can get.
Abby took a plea deal for 5 years behind bars.
How do you plead to the offense?
5 years for an aggravated robbery conviction is a good deal for her. It's clear that prosecutors and the judge believed she was the least culpable of the three.
It breaks my heart that ultimately I'm the one that sent my sister to prison.
Do you think that you two can be close again after this?
Oh, this will never come between me and my sister.
And she forgives you?
I haven't asked her to forgive me. I think that the possibility that she might not is too scary a thought for me to think about.
If your father were right here, Hayden, what would you say to him?
You know, I'd tell him that I forgive him and that I don't want him to carry this burden around with him for the rest of his life.
And his sister tells me she feels the same way. Is what your dad did to you, is that forgivable?
I've forgiven him.
You have forgiven him?
I have to forgive him so I can start to live a normal life. I don't want hate, anger, any of that in my heart.
Now, the three of them, father, son, and daughter, are in the same jail, but they're separated. And for Abby, who tells me that her brother is her best friend and her soulmate, being separated from Hayden is devastating.
I think we both hate to see each other in this situation. And there's just nothing we can do for each other, you know. I feel like I can't help him, and I can't comfort him, and that makes me sad.
Okay, I want to show you something. So as we're sitting there interviewing Abby, we've got a surprise for her. Okay, so, boom, just boom it. So you may notice something's happening.
Yeah.
Sheriff Troy Nels makes this unprecedented gesture. He's allowing Abby and Hayden to meet. This just doesn't happen. So, with the help of the sheriffs, we asked if we might be able to bring Hayden in here for you to see him. If you're okay with that.
somebody like that. So they're going right out, and he's gonna sit here. Look at that smile. How long has it been since you've seen him?
Since I've talked to him, a year.
Jailhouse rules are strict. Hayden is brought in shackled hands and feet, and the rules say no touching. But Hayden and Abby just can't seem to help themselves.
Hi, Abby.
Can you?
Are you doing okay?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just happy to see you.
Yeah, me too. Abby, I'm sorry, okay?
I don't blame you for anything, Hayden. Just know that I love you forever.
I love you too.
I don't blame you for anything. Nothing.
Okay.
And I want you to know that.
Okay.
We can see the future now, at least.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be okay. Yeah. And we'll get to be normal brother and sister again.
Right.
I love you.
I love you too.
Can I give him a hug?
No, I can't hug you.
No?
No. It's gonna be a long time until I see you.
I know. I'm glad.
I know I can take care of myself, so I just worry about you, Abby.
I'm fine.
Okay.
And then we get the sign from the sheriff. They can hug.
If you guys want to give each other a hug, the sheriff says it's okay.
Really?
Oh.
It could be 10 years before they see each other again. And if you listen closely, that's the sound our mics pick up of their hearts beating.
When I heard that heartbeat, I said to myself, please, please, somehow let them move ahead and break the chains of that father and live to have happy lives.
It'll be okay.
I know.
It's just gonna be a couple of years until I can see you.
When they asked me, is it okay for Abigail to hug her brother Hayden, I felt, why not? She needed that. They were kind of desperate souls there at that point in time.
I don't want you to go.
I know.
Thank you for the hug. I needed it.
I know. All right, we're gonna have to come back. All right, Abby, be strong, right?
I love you.
Abby, I love you too. I'll see you soon.
Okay, bye.
Allowing them to touch and hug that way, I felt was in many ways the beginning of some sort of a healing. There is a life thread between those two kids and even between the two kids and their father still.
You know how a lot of people see a program on television and they go, oh, that's so sad, and then they forget about it? That's not what happened.
Turns out a 2020 viewer who actually works at the jailhouse saw the program.
Tonight on 2020, the unbelievable story of a father who turned his own kids into hardcore criminals.
Saw Abby and decided to open up her heart and her house to her, taking her in after her sentence was up.
Abby, this is your new house.
Fairy tale ending, right? Not quite.
Let me tell you something about the prison system. You do not want to end up in a Texas prison. The temperatures go up over 100. When they say hard time, they mean hard time.
After their sentencing, Scott and Hayden are shipped off to a Texas state prison. And Abby was almost sent to state prison as well.
But then, in a real act of mercy, Fort Bend County Sheriff Nels did something pretty incredible. He arranged for Abby to stay in the local jail.
I just feel that she's more of a victim in this, and I'm going to do my part to try to help see her become a productive member of society.
So this was a really good break for Abby Catt, not to have to go to state prison and deal with hardened criminals.
We had her enrolled in the GED program. She was learning how to sew. We were doing everything we could to set her up for success. It takes a little bit of time, too, to learn this, doesn't it?
Yes, but I learned very fast, and we get a lot done in here.
I don't think it's every day that you see a sheriff intervene and say, listen, have some mercy here.
Can I check your work?
To go out on a limb for a double bank robber, that never happens.
So here's a second chance, another opportunity for you.
And I thank you for that.
So make me proud
Yes,
while you're
sir,
here.
I will.
All right? All right, very well.
Thank you. I've been here for just over 2.5 years. Since the last time you saw me, a lot has changed. Emotionally, I'm doing a little bit better. And I have become a better and stronger person in here.
Abby apparently had no visitors while she was in jail. But her aunt and grandmother traveled from Oregon to the jail in Texas to visit Abby, and that's the first time they have seen her in 3 years.
It was so emotional seeing Abby.
Look at you.
I had so much hope for her, and all I could do was just give her a big hug and tell her how much we loved her.
Oh, I love you.
But this visit is also a cause for celebration because Abby learns that she got parole, and that means she's going to be released in just a few months.
Do you know how lucky you are?
Yes.
Okay.
You've been given an opportunity here that many others don't ever get to start a new life.
Abby's new life on the outside is going to start with a woman she met on the inside, a volunteer sewing teacher named Susie Gregory.
See how you...
Now, Susie Gregory is a married mother of 2 grown sons.
And she watches the original 2020 piece.
I believe he feels remorse, but he's still going to have my best interest through all of this.
Becomes very emotional about it. And she was open enough to try to give Abby a second chance.
We watched the 2020 show, and I said, this is just wrong. She should not be in jail for this. And I just felt like God put me in that sewing room for Abby. I couldn't balance robbing banks, driving a getaway car with the sweet little girl in the jail. They didn't equate. There's something wrong with that equation. I said, how would you feel if I would find someone in our church that would be willing to take you in when you got out? She said, well, could I meet them first? And I said, well, I was kind of thinking about Steve and I. And she said, oh, I would love that. Thank you for everything. Oh, you're welcome.
It's pretty extraordinary that a volunteer sewing teacher at the county jail finds it in her heart to open her home to Abby. Gives you hope about the human race.
To put herself out there to try to help Abigail, just incredible. Not anyone would just do that. It's an amazing story.
Jail, and in a short period of time, stumble.
Abby did well after being released from jail, and then I think her demons started to creep in.
Abby's future looked so bright. It didn't work out that way at all. And I put the blame squarely at her father, Scott Katz's feet.
In your wildest dreams, did you think that within a year you'd be back in doing time?
No.
It's been years since I've last seen Abby, and the last time we saw her, we thought that things were looking up. Well, it didn't turn out that way.
The last time we saw Abby, she was walking into a loving home with everything mapped out for her to start all over again.
Take me back to 2015. What was it like living with Susie?
It was amazing in some areas. In other areas, it was so different.
What was different about it?
Some of the rules, and
You just came from jail. Could any rules be any worse than the jail?
Right, but I didn't want any rules.
Our number one requirement was that she attend church on Sunday morning. We said, school night, you really need to be in by 10 o'clock because you're going to have to get some homework done. On the weekends, you need to be home by midnight. Those were our rules. And she just started not coming home at all at night, or coming home at 2 or 3 in the morning.
My problem is that the only people that I knew were the people I had met in the jail. I'm bored. I need someone to hang out with. And slowly that kind of takes you down the wrong path.
Where did this wrong path lead you?
You know, maybe there was a little drugs involved here and there. Just the ripping and running.
After Abby was not coming home for several days on end, we told her we would change the locks if she didn't come home, and she didn't. So we changed the locks.
I would say in the end, I just left.
It was really hard. I really considered Abby to be the daughter of my heart. We let her see a family that cared for each other, that didn't rob banks. But it just seems like the more I reflect on it, I feel like she just wasn't ready for it.
People think leaving prison, hallelujah, you're out, you're free, it's a new life, but people don't understand that's a whole different set of challenges trying to reintegrate back into society.
Abby ends up in Laredo, Texas. She gets a job driving a pilot car for wide loads.
Laredo's a border town, 150 miles south of San Antonio. Thousands upon thousands of trucks go by there every day.
And that's where you met Ricardo Gonzalez, right?
Yeah.
Little eye roll there.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I'm just gonna say he's just not a good person.
When you look at Ricardo's rap sheet, which is really quite long, one after another arrests.
He's got convictions for theft, aggravated robbery,
terroristic threat of a family.
We all hung out and partied and...
Can I ask what that means? Because I'm twice your age, I don't even know what that means anymore.
Partied, you know, there's, well, obviously alcohol and maybe some cocaine and, you know, some weed, stuff like that. Whatever, I don't have another choice. You know, that's kind of how I felt. Oh, I don't have another choice. We'll see where this goes.
Where did it go?
Jail.
It's 1:30 a.m. in August 2016, and Abby goes with Ricardo Gonzalez to a Stripes gas station in Laredo.
I was high, passed out. I had parked at the Stripes while he was going to put gas in the car, and I ended up falling asleep right away.
What happens?
Next thing, I was woken up by the police knocking on my window. Pulled me out of the car and onto the ground and handcuffed me. So they say, do you realize that he's over here robbing people in the store? And I said, no, I didn't realize that. I'm sorry.
She ends up in the car with a guy who allegedly holds somebody at gunpoint.
Well, that's clearly a parole violation. Clearly, she's back in trouble again. Come on. Wow. Deja vu. All over again.
Ricardo pleads not guilty to aggravated robbery, and his trial is scheduled this fall.
Abby is never indicted for the holdup at the gas station. However, she has violated her parole.
She had not been regularly reporting to her parole officer for the previous crime.
And she gets held in this jail for over a year. When you're sitting in that jail in Laredo, did you think about Sheriff Nels? And you know, you had promised him that you'd stay on track.
Of course.
Didn't that go through your mind?
Of course. And not just him, but everybody that was involved. And myself, too. I was disappointed in myself just as much as everybody else was disappointed in me. But it's always better to be in jail than it is to be dead.
Did you ever think growing up that that's the kind of thing that you would say to yourself in your head? It's better to be in jail than being dead?
Oh, no. I would always say I would never go to jail.
What happened was reality. It's not an easy fix. But going back to a behavior that is inappropriate is really just part of the long healing process.
The person who has set all of this in motion, Scott Catt, declined to do another interview with us. But Abby says that she has visited him in prison and still forgives him.
I think sometimes I blame myself more than him.
But he invited you to go on a bank heist.
I know he loves me. I know he loves me as his daughter. So it's hard sometimes to really get what happened.
How often do you think about your brother?
Every day. Every day. Yeah. Both of them every day. I'm definitely waiting on them to get out.
If you could send a message to Hayden, what would you say?
I love you.
Anything else?
No, just I love you. Waiting on him to come home, for sure. Waiting on Hayden to come home. I just want him to be okay when he gets out, because I know how hard it was for me. I just worry about him, because he's really got to be strong when he gets out. He has no idea. He has to be so strong. Life out here is just different from in there.
Right after our interview with Abby, we got a chance to bring her together again with Sheriff Troy Nels, who tried so hard to help her after her first arrest.
I want to have an opportunity to say a few things to her.
Now turning into the small road that leads to this prison in the middle of, it's like prairie land. It's been about 6 years since I last saw Hayden. He had just taken a plea deal for a 10-year prison sentence. And I'm here to see how he's doing behind bars. Hayden.
Hey.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good. You're looking good.
Thank you.
Very tan.
Been working outside. Feel good.
How's things?
Great, actually.
Really?
Yes, sir.
I mean, last time we spoke, about almost 6 years ago, you said that you expected prison to be as close to hell on earth as anything you can imagine.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like it's been that.
Not at all. You know, I came in here very lost, very broken. In here, I found a piece that was missing. I found a faith in Christ. I feel more free and I feel more alive in here than I did out in the world. And I see now that I was basically the walking dead out there.
You know, in many ways, your father was with you but abandoned you. Still, the last time we spoke, you were pretty forgiving of him. Do you feel the same way now?
I do. You know, I think that he did the best job with me and Abby that he could. He lost his way, that's for sure.
Have you been in contact with him?
Usually every week, through our letters.
What do you talk about?
I think that he's found the same faith and redemption that I have here as well.
Do you really think he's changed?
I do.
What about Abby? Have you kept up with your sister?
You know, I don't hear from Abby as much as I would like to, but I love her so much. And I can't wait to show her what these 6 years have meant to me.
Do you think that Abby can turn her life around?
Absolutely. The best thing that we have right now is we're both young and we've learned huge life-shattering lessons at a young age. I really feel like it's put us ahead of our peers.
You feel like you're ahead of your peers?
Absolutely. So in the next 3 years, I'll be going home and I can't wait for it. I'm going to attack life with everything I got.
As for Abby's future, there is big news in her life. She's now 25 years old and she went to work in a fish processing plant. There, she met her now boyfriend, Trenzel, and they're now expecting a baby. Look at that!
Yeah,
that's amazing! Do we know the gender?
Oh boy. I'm 6.5 months pregnant currently with my first child. Everything changes once you find out you're pregnant. You can't be selfish anymore, that's for sure.
I think she's gonna be a very wonderful mother. Too easy, probably.
I don't go to the store to buy myself things anymore. I go to the store to buy him things, and that feels so awesome. That's cool.
We had a chance to reunite Abby with the sheriff who helped her years ago.
Can I give you a hug?
I just want to see a bright future for you.
I just wanted to tell you I thank you for everything that you have done for me. Obviously, I let a lot of people down, and you know, I apologize to you if that was embarrassing to you. I learned from it all, and I came out a stronger woman, and I thank you for believing in me then and believing in me now.
Abby's aunt has invited Abby to live with her once her baby's born. You seem to have had so many chances, right? With Sheriff Nels, with Susie. What makes you think it's going to actually be different this time?
My son and my relationship. Those are two things that I can't lose. So that's it.
You're saying the stakes are too high this time?
Yeah, I have too much. There's two people that need me. You start to put your life into perspective and like the person you are and the people you want to be around. And now we just have our son and he's gonna be with us, and that's all we need.